A lifetime has passed. We've struck gold on the moon, we found a cure to cancer, we even got Half-Life 3. Alas though, in the year 2050, there is still no sequel to Super Mario Odyssey. And it's a shame, as Mario has simply been forgotten by Nintendo. After acquiring the rights to Silksong, gave them a new mascot to market, and along with Hornet's trusty sidekick Donkey Kong, there's just no need for the red plumber anymore. It's a shame. Back here in the real world though, the longest gap between 3D Mario games is currently underway, with it being over 8 years since the release of Mario Odyssey on October 27, 2017, with some rumors out there claiming this gap could extend all the way to the summer of 2027. The closest to this gap's length came from between Mario 64 and Sunshine, which was a 6-year gap between 1996 and 2002. Given that this was the first gap possible between games, it makes sense that the length of it was so long, as there is not yet a standard set. But following this was 5 years till Galaxy, 3 years till its sequel, Galaxy 2, then 3D World at 3 years, and finally Odyssey following 4 years later. So not only is 8 years incredibly long for the series, it also comes at a time when the game should theoretically have the most laid out plan for development. So, how do we get here? Rumors began to swirl around 2021 that the Mario Odyssey team had begun work on a 3D Donkey Kong game starting around 2017 to 2018. DK Bonanza released this past year to critical acclaim, made by, you guessed it, the Odyssey team. So if these rumors are to be believed, that would mean that the Odyssey team has been occupied since basically this past year. And that would mean a Mario project would be starting now, or another team has been working on Mario in the meantime. So the big question remains, where does 3D Mario go from here? Super Mario as a whole has arguably never been stronger than the time between now and Odyssey's release. With multiple successful movies, a wonderful return to 2D form, multiple solid spin-offs and remakes, Legos, more Olympics with the blue guy for some reason, and another of whatever this is. But even in the span of all this success, and the over 8 years that have passed, we have had nary a whisper of a sequel to Super Mario Odyssey. It is not surprising to see the lopsidedness in the release schedule of the series, as surely the Switch came out earlier than expected by Nintendo, due to the failure of the Wii U. However, this debacle happened nearly a decade ago now. Even with the Switch itself having the longest lifespan of a main home console for Nintendo, and every mainline gaming company to date for the record, we should still expect at least some kind of timeline for the most core Nintendo series that the company has to offer. So what should we expect for the next installment of the 3D Mario series? Well, in order to answer that question, I think it's appropriate to look back on each entry in the series and analyze what is to come based on what has already arrived. Super Mario 64 first reached the world on June 23, 1996 in Japan, September 29th that same year in North America, and finally Europe on March 1st, 1997. To me, Mario 64 is everything that a video game should be. A time capsule of whimsy, an ode to exploration, a love letter to joy itself. Mario 64 is simply a grand old time, and it becomes this in its own unique way. You play as the boisterous Red Plumber himself, which isn't necessarily groundbreaking at the time. What is groundbreaking for the time is, chiefly, the third dimension, as this game marks Mario, and the industry as a whole's, first real foray into 3D, and they flat out knocked it out of the park. The transition to 3D wouldn't be easy for a lot of gamers, and the developers knowing this, essentially assigned this 3D mechanic to its own character, Lakitu, who would hold and control the camera for Mario to see the world around him. Lakitu's inclusion is what made the game so special at the time, and the one thing that holds back the game for so many nowadays. With nearly 3 decades of game development occurring since Mario 64 release, of course camera control was iterated and innovated on numerous times. However, since Mario 64 was required to be played on this thing, the camera controls were relegated to the C buttons, making for clunkier controls than your modern day C stick or secondary controller stick. Now for the time, and even now in my personal opinion, these controls did not take away from the magic that the game had to offer. With 120 power stars to collect, 15 different levels to explore, power-ups like Wing, Metal, and Invisible Mario, the game has a lot to offer. You can even stretch Mario's face and make him look stupid! Mario's movement is the hallmark of the game, which is also upgraded after being given another dimension to work with. Along with your typical jumping, you now have double and triple jumps for extra height. Additional movement options include the backflip, side flip, slide tackle, long jumping, diving, crawling, and busting it down, which was obviously just multi-level marketing for this masterpiece. You don't even have to jump on the Goombas anymore. You can just beat the shit out of them. It's clear as day that the name of the game for 3D Mario would be exploration based and grow into a more sandbox style and have several worlds to explore, along with a heavy focus on fluidity in Mario's movement. Now wait till you see what comes next. The GameCube became the home of the next entry in the 3D Mario series, Super Mario Sunshine. Now, the GameCube library was known for being a bit, different, and Mario would not be excluded from this vision. That's not to say that Sunshine, or GameCube games in general, are bad by any means, but if you want to look at this library and tell me they weren't off their rocker with at least half these ideas, then I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, Mario Sunshine released in Japan on July 19th, 2002, with a North American release following on August 26th of that year, followed by European and Australian releases on October 4th and 11th respectively. The big gimmick for this installment is this Dr. Robotnik hellscape known as Flood. Flood is a massive shift for everything Mario, as it adds so much more movement options. You now have the strafing ability to aid in spraying down dirty enemies and obstacles with Flood. The hover nozzle gives Mario an eponymous hover ability, along with rocket and turbo nozzles applying similar usages. The downside of Flood is needing water to fuel all of these. But you can refill Flood by getting into any body of water, which there's plenty of, and recharging or picking up a new or existing nozzle. This mechanic is especially satisfying with the turbo nozzle, where, while in a body of water, you can infinitely use it, essentially turning Mario into a friggin' jet ski. Diving is overhauled, with the ability to kick forward now after a dive, essentially replacing the long jump from Mario 64, which was unfortunately removed. What essentially makes up the quirkiness of this game is a lot of the design philosophies compared to past Mario entries. While traditional power-ups were missing from Mario 64, what little was left with the power boxes is replaced with Flood and Yoshi, who appears as a playable character in the mainline Mario series for the first time since Super Mario World, where he was introduced. Flood and Yoshi both add movement options for Mario with nozzles and flutter jump. They are also core to progressing in the game, as they aid in clearing obstacles and defeating enemies with water or juice. Mario himself, however, never directly receives any of these power-ups, which is highlighted in the game's secret stages, where the player's platforming skills are put to the test. The game in general is also just strange. A lot of your core Mario enemies are not here, or they look quite different. Some of the plot points are definitely striking compared to the past. The first half of the game, your main antagonist is not Bowser, but Shadow Mario, who eventually is revealed to be Bowser Jr., trying to kidnap Peach because he thinks she's his mama? The implications. But of course, the final boss could only be the King Koopa himself, in a volcanic hot tub where he was vacationing. And honestly, that kind of fucking rules as a final boss for a vacation-themed game. At least conceptually, considering all you need to do here is pound your Italian dumpy a few times to create Pompeii 2.0 with Bowser. Mario Sunshine as a whole is regarded as the hardest in the series, given the slippery controls and environments, but it shines through with rewarding platforming and intriguing environments to explore. The blue coins are an interesting idea on paper as well, but given the fact that you cannot keep track of them in any meaningful way within the game itself, it is easily the most frustrating collectible or objective in the game. And that's including this stupid f***ing watermelon. What remains similar to its predecessor is the overall format of the game. 120 shines in the place of stars, levels you can teleport into, and saving Peach from the clutches of Bowser, as always. I do like some of the design choices for this game. As compared to Mario 64, each level in the game is meaningful to the environment and world around it, and the hub world is also great, as it is the island that Mario and crew are vacationing on, with a myriad of secrets to be found. Now with the series to this point, being Mario 64 and Sunshine, there was literally no way to predict where we would go next. It would surely be out of this world. Mario Galaxy released to the world on November 1st, 2007 in Japan, followed by releases in North America, Europe, and Australia on November 12th, 16th, and 29th respectively. If I had to describe this game in one word, it would be cinema. And not in the Scorsese meme, absolute cinema way, but this game is legitimately cinematic. Between the orchestral soundtrack, dedicated cutscenes, and overarching storyline, this game really feels like the studio said, what if we made Mario as grandiose as possible? The game holds so much nostalgia for so many. One, for being on the Wii, which is nostalgia central if you're between the age of 20 or 30, along with the soundtrack of the game holding so much value to many. If Gusty Garden Galaxy or Good Day Galaxy is ever connected with your ears, you get transported back to the first time you spun with the funny red guy. Given the name of the game, you probably guessed the game takes place in galaxies. And you would be wrong, it takes place in space. But anyways, your Isle Delfino hub world is substituted for Rosalina's Comet Observatory, which is incredibly fitting for the plot of the game. Mario takes on Bowser in an intergalactic battle with the help of Rosalina, taking him across the galaxies to find power stars. After each incremental boss battle, the ship gets powered up even more and unlocks another hub to check out. My favorite part of the Comet Observatory is that for every 2 hubs' boss battles completed, the music in the observatory adds more instruments, adding a grander feel to the progression of the game. Mario Galaxy once again overhauled movement compared to its predecessor. The main draw of this game is the little insect Luma that hops into your hat and makes you spin Ratatouille style. Being on the Wii, there had to be some motion controls involved, of course. Spinning the Wii remote would give Mario the ability to spin jump, gaining extra height and stalling in the air, which is crucial for the planet-hopping plumber. The dive has been taken out and replaced with the long jump again, which I feel is a better fit for the game structure. You can tell retroactively that the game is very much designed for the Wii, given movement is held back a fair bit. The Galaxy games have the slowest movement in the 3D series by far, but the structure and design of the games absolutely make up for this drawback. Galaxy also brings back traditional power-ups as opposed to Sunshine. The Fire Flower makes its triumphant return, along with its brother's debut in the Ice Flower. If you know the Fire Flower, you can take a pretty good guess as to the Ice Flower's role. The Ice Flower also does allow Mario to become Alyssa Leo for a bit. One of the most iconic power-ups, for the right and wrong reasons, is Bee Mario, which gives Mario enough flight to glide around, but not really enough to feel like a power-up. Spring Mario is also just straight up not a power-up, as you get high up in the air, but have so little control over what's going on at almost all times. Boo Mario is a pretty cool concept, but only really exists in the ghost levels. Finally, the Red Star power-up, which gives Mario full flight, is absolutely fantastic, but of course, only exists after the game is fully completed and you've done everything else to do. The health system is also overhauled compared to previous entries. While the past two games had power wheels with 8 hits and an underwater air wheel in Sunshine, this game gives you 3 hits, 6 with a power-up shroom, and an underwater gauge. Despite the mindfuckery that is walking across planets, the controls feel pretty seamless for the average gamer, which I think is a net positive for the game as a whole. This is another instance of experimentation for the 3D Mario series, and I think is a roaring success. So, why not just do it again? Galaxy 1 was received so well and had so many ideas left on the table that Nintendo was left no choice but to say, "F it, run it back?" Galaxy 2 released once again for the Wii on May 23rd, 2010 in North America, followed by May 27th, June 11th, and July 1st releases in Japan, Europe, and Australia respectively. The first ever direct sequel in 3D Mario did not hold back, as it was just straight up more Mario Galaxy, which is what everyone wanted. The main draw of the game being the re-emergence of everyone's favorite big back green dinosaur, Yoshi. Yoshi returns in Galaxy 2 in a big way. Like Sunshine, Bro is back to gulping up the fruit, except now with a twist. Yoshi has his own power-ups for the first time, with the 3 special fruits. The dash fruit makes Yoshi really fast, as he could not hang with the boys on Hot Ones. The bulb fruit lights up the scene, illuminating dark levels for previously invisible platforms. And finally, the blimp fruit turns Yoshi into a hot air balloon to gain some big hype. Yoshi himself can also eat up basically any enemy, which is awesome. Your hub world is now Planet Mario instead of the Comet Observatory. Narcissism aside, this is a pretty solid hub world, as you get a casino and an ever-evolving crew as you progress throughout the game. There are some aspects I prefer in Comet Observatory compared to Planet Mario, but overall I think it's a great fit for the game, as linearity is much more emphasized in this game than previously. It also rules that you get to unlock Luigi midway through the game, instead of at the very end. Some power-ups return from Galaxy, like the Bee and Spring power-ups, everyone's favorites. However, we got some new blood in here as well, starting with the Cloud Flower. This guy absolutely rules, as you not only get to place clouds in the air 3 times per flower with a spin, you also get mobility buffs with slower falling speed and longer long jumps. The Drill power-up is also pretty solid, and has some great ideas to platforming and boss battles given the planetary setting. Rock Mario lets you turn into, well, a rock, and bulldoze through everything. You also get to be a bowling ball sometimes, which is awesome. Overall, Galaxy 1 and 2 I view at a similar level as far as quality of games. Galaxy 1 I feel is more grandiose of an experience, but Galaxy 2 feels more innovative. Both games are fairly linear, but Galaxy 2 makes it known that is its direction, given the world map design and comet medal and star counts unlocking levels. So, given back-to-back bangers in the Galaxy sub-series, surely a third installment is to follow? Well, the number 3 was certainly involved, but not in the way one would have expected. The success of the Wii was followed by the stinkiness of the Wii U. However, for all the bad things that have been said about the Wii U, nearly none of that should be attributed to Super Mario 3D World, which was the definition of making Yoshi soup out of Yoshi. Mario 3D World released on November 21st, 2013 in Japan, followed by North American and European releases on November 22nd and 29th respectively. While not nearly the strongest entry in the series, the game is still a quality experience overall, and in contention for the prestigious award of Best Wii U Game. 3D World is a stark contrast to all the 3D Mario entries beforehand. It essentially takes the formula of Super Mario 3D Land from the 3DS and evolves it to work on a home console. The gameplay is fairly simple compared to previous entries, with the focus being linear platforming, collectibles, and for the first time in the 3D series, multiplayer. While the Galaxy entries had Baby Brother mode with the Luma cursor, 3D World has full-fledged multiplayer with up to 4 playable characters at a time. The game offers 4 playable characters initially. Mario is an all-rounder like usual. Luigi has a higher jump, but is more slippery to control, similar to the Galaxy games. Peach has a float ability that helps greatly, but has worse overall stats aside from that. And finally, Toad has quick movement speed, but a lower jump. Shortly after the final boss is completed, Rosalina can be unlocked, and she has the spin jump from Mario Galaxy, without motion controller activation necessary. All the characters support different playstyles, and it harkens back to the design philosophy of Super Mario Bros. 2, where all these same characters, aside from Rosa of course, were playable as well. The main collectible of this game is green stars, as opposed to the previous power stars. You get 3 per main level, and differing amounts on special levels, like your mystery box or Toad Treasure Tracker mini levels. The criticism of this game largely centers on the linearity and overall plastic feel of the game. I understand these critiques, as the game does not innovate as well as the past entries in the 3D series. However, I don't really think this is a deterrent to playing or enjoying the game. This is still, to date, the only 3D Mario with actual multiplayer, which is an achievement in and of itself. It also has lots of great ideas, platforming, and challenges to uncover. I understand criticism regarding the fact that it doesn't feel overly unique, but overall, comparing it to the past 3D Mario entries to this point, I feel that it ironically is unique in its lack of uniqueness, as outside of Galaxy 1 and 2, it does stick out like a sore thumb compared to the other entries. Now we stand at the crossroads of the Wii U and the next console. Nintendo really needs a hard-hitting Mario entry to sell the system. So, what do we do if not go on a grand adventure? If Homer of Lesser Yellow knew anything about adventure, he showed it through this rendition of the Mario series. Super Mario Odyssey came to the world on October 27th, 2017, marking the third head of the Nintendo Switch's launch year Hydra. Mario Odyssey signified a return to form for the 3D Mario series, along with a breath of fresh air in its modern age. This was the game that was promised to us so long ago. A return to the roots of Mario 64 with sandbox level design that you can encounter objectives in whatever order you may so choose. The evolution of the first and arguably best entry in the series is an incredibly high bar to live up to. So, how did Mario Odyssey do? Well, in my opinion, Mario Odyssey did nothing short of crush the expectations set upon it. The ideas, joy, challenges, and thrills presented by this game are some of the best in the series, if not the best in the series. Taking a classic like Mario 64 and evolving it into a modern game and being able to live up to the name is no small feat. And that feat was absolutely achieved. Where Odyssey really makes its own name for itself is in Mario's newfound companion, Cappy. Cappy is flat out revolutionary for the series. Between all the new movement options, power-ups, and abilities, Cappy adds an unthinkable amount of depth to a series that prides itself on in-depth ability for the player. Your typical movement options return: long jump, double and triple jumps, backflip, side flip, dives, etc. Rolling is a welcome addition as well, paired with optional motion controls. But Cappy adds an entire new wrinkle to everything that is movement with Mario. You can throw Cappy to capture enemies and interact with the world. Spinning with Cappy grants a spinning attack, killing all those who've scorned you. You can also hold Cappy out for a few seconds, allowing him to act as essentially a portable platform. The real kicker is that Cappy can do this in midair, allowing you to clear gaps in ways never before possible. At least not with some crouch button grease. The movement in this game is simply butter, and it harkens back to the fluidity of Sunshine, only now with much more control. In Odyssey, now we've not only departed from green stars, but stars as a whole. Mario's mission is to power up his hat-shaped R-Wing in order to fly around the world to catch up to Bowser and a mildly kidnapped Peach. There is just a ton of charm with this game. Cappy lets you possess all kinds of things, like a Goomba, a goddamn Donald Glover, and even a tree. You also get to pilot Bowser through the most metal ending in Mario history. Like you are platforming as Bowser through a collapsing moon. I need a whiff of that Odyssey Team Indica, bro. I know that shit is special. Traditional power-ups are absent from Odyssey, but in their stead are 52 unique captures, thanks to Cappy's puppeteering. Not all of these are incredibly useful. I mean, some of you are literally just a rock, or a rock-like thing that hopples to the rock-shaped hole in the ground. But you get to be freaking Yoshi, Bowser, an almond with retractable thighs. This game is chock full with movement options and ideas, and it is all thanks to Mario wanting to show off after his recent trip to Turkey. Odyssey is a marvel, and it left me and so many wanting more. I mean, the possibilities are simply endless with the capture mechanic and new movement options being enabled. There just had to be more, right? Well, as of the making of this video, there was, in fact, not more. It is nearing a decade without so much a whisper as to what's next for the series. I mean, technically, we got Bowser's Fury in 2021, which was a great addition to 3D World for the Switch. But it was just that, an addition. It was never advertised as anything more than an add-on from leftover concepts for 3D World. Surely it's not the end. I mean, Mario is simply too large of a franchise, and frankly cash cow, to drop entirely. So surely something's on the horizon. It is just genuinely baffling that there has not even been a peep with how much potential for the series there is left behind, with the new foundation set by Odyssey. So to circle all the way back to the beginning, where does 3D Mario go from here? Well, having played this whole series and been around it my whole life, I see three realistic options. With how much is still left on the table, a direct sequel to Mario Odyssey is certainly plausible. However, with how much time has passed, I feel if that was the direction Nintendo wanted to take, it would have been taken by now. Next, with all the recent buzz surrounding the Mario Galaxy series, with the release of Galaxy 1 and 2 on the Switch 2, and the second Mario movie skipping nearly the entire series to be called the Mario Galaxy movie, I don't think it is entirely impossible that Galaxy 3 could be up next. I mean, the Galaxy games are fantastic as they are, but imagine a sequel on a much higher power console, with new ideas and mechanics to play around with. I think Odyssey 2 would have a lot more on the table as far as new ideas go than a potential Galaxy 3, but I would be lying if I said I wouldn't shed tears to more Mario Galaxy style music. The third option though, and where I think Nintendo will go next with 3D Mario at this point, is a new, standalone entry. I think sequels to either Galaxy or Odyssey would be welcomed with open arms, but with the amount of re-releases in the series since Odyssey, I think it is pretty clear that the studio is taking its time on a new direction. Now, where might that be? Well, as we've looked back on the series, I think it's clear that each 3D Mario is pretty distinct from one another, aside from direct sequels of course. There's a clear pattern laid out. Mario 64 and Odyssey are in a similar vein, with a sandbox style and whimsical tone. Galaxy 1 and 2 sacrifice movement for a more grandiose approach. Sunshine and 3D World do their own thing, but clearly stick to the ethos of Mario as a whole. I think the direction 3D Mario will go is another standalone title, likely drawing inspiration from Super Mario Bros. Wonder. I'm envisioning a game where entire levels are shifted based on acquiring the Wonder Flower. There can easily be tie-ins with other games in the series, like taking a Wonder Flower puts you into Galaxy-style gravity or worlds. Another one could change your hat into a Cappy-like entity, and you can capture enemies briefly. impossible to accurately predict where the series will go based on literally nothing, but I can definitively say that I think a standalone title is what is next. And I hope it is close, because man, I've been missing my Red Man Adventures 3D. If you liked the video, please consider liking and subscribing. I plan to make more content like this, so if you enjoyed, tune in for some more soon. I also stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/bry_, so I'd greatly appreciate it if you check that out as well. Thanks for watching. Until next time.